Heartless, Forbidden, Book 1. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Paulina Schubert. Chapter 37. My new school was much bigger than I had expected it to be. These people lived in houses that were much larger than they needed to be, so I should have known that the size of the school would not be in proportion to the size of the student body. The building also looked nothing like the typical, nondescript schools I had attended in the past. The entrance, with its tall white columns and clock tower, made it look like a historic landmark rather than a modern school. That image was reinforced when I stepped into the arched hallway. Seeing students dressed in jeans helped to alleviate some of my nervousness about fitting in. We weren't required to wear uniforms, and the dress code was the standard in other schools I had attended as well. The main office also had the familiar look of a school office, but the headmaster's office did not. It was spacious and extravagant for a principal's office with its leather furniture, including a couch, and heavy expensive desks set in front of floor-to-ceiling bookshelves containing scholarly-looking volumes of books that added prestige to the decor. To my surprise, the headmaster was a woman. She was dressed in a sharp black sheath dress and suit jacket, and had the demeanor of a person who commanded respect. Her attitude toward me was pleasant enough, though, as she introduced herself as Mrs. Owens and welcomed me to Eastland. "We're happy to have you here," she told me. "I hope you'll take advantage of the excellent education you can get here and apply yourself. We have tutoring available if you need help, so there is no reason you can't do well. It's all up to you, Alexandra. We have some of the best teachers in the country, but how much you learn is entirely up to you." I felt like this was a veiled criticism of my academic performance. I got more B's than A's, and I had been content with that until now. This woman was implying that I needed help, which was something that would only be suggested at my old school if I was in danger of failing. Clearly, this place expected much more from their students, and I regretted my impulsive decision to transfer here. I hadn't been thinking of anything academic at the time, though. All I had thought about was escaping Schuyler's hatred and my shame. At least nobody here knew about that, except for Morgan, and I trusted her not to tell anyone else. I was starting with a clean social slate here, although my grades had already made a bad impression on the headmaster. "I'll study more," I promised her, striving to improve her opinion of me. Her brief smile doled out a scrap of approval toward me. "We encourage all of our students to achieve excellence, Alexandra. Don't settle for less than your best effort." "I won't," I told her. "All right," she said as she picked up a folder from her desk. "Here is your schedule and our handbook. Don't hesitate to come to me with any concerns you might have." "Thank you," I replied, feeling relieved to be dismissed. After leaving the office, I pulled the map I had already printed out at home out of my purse and searched for the location of my first class. The hallways looked more like those in a regular school once I was out of the administration building. There were rows of lockers, but I didn't bother searching for mine yet. I was more concerned with making it to class on time and not drawing more attention to myself than I already would by being a new student. To make matters worse, my first class was Spanish 1, because this school required 3 years of a language to graduate. Since I didn't have to take a language at my previous schools, I was starting with the beginner class as a junior and would have to catch up with summer school and tutoring in order to take Spanish 3 the following school year. This also meant that I would be in class with freshmen this year. Since I had arrived at school early from my meeting with the headmaster, I managed to be the first student to walk into Spanish class, although there were students out in the hallway who looked curiously at me. At least I didn't have to introduce myself to the teacher in front of the other kids. She was expecting me, and she had an entire packet of makeup work for me already. Starting in October had put me considerably behind, but Robert had hired a tutor for me who would be coming over to the house every day after school. It was a good thing that I had quit my job, because I would be spending a lot of time on homework. Although I still had this week to finish the 2 weeks' notice I had given my boss, he had already cut my hours. I would only be working 2 days this week, and that would only be on Friday and Saturday night. It wouldn't affect my first week at my new school at all. I sat down at a random desk and placed the packet of homework inside my backpack before setting it down on the floor by my feet. I left my new textbook on my desk so that I would be prepared when class began. Other students started entering the classroom, all of them throwing curious glances at me. I had been prepared to move if I was in someone else's seat, but no one seemed to mind where I was sitting. The class was so small that there were plenty of empty desks. I counted only 12 students, and I tried not to take it as a bad sign that I was number 13. "Buenos dias," the teacher said after the bell rang. "That means good morning," she explained, looking directly at me. "We have a new student," she continued as she shifted her gaze toward the rest of the class. "Alexandra," she addressed me. "Do you prefer to be called by your full name or a nickname?" "Lexi," I answered, dreading having to talk about myself. My nickname." "All right, Lexi," she replied. "Welcome to Spanish. Follow along as best as you can." With that brief introduction, she began class without putting any more attention on me. I was grateful that she didn't tell them any other information about me, and I hoped that the rest of my teachers would be as considerate and accommodating. I tried to absorb as much of the unfamiliar words as I could, but I could see that I had a lot of catching up to do. When class ended, I shoved my textbook into my backpack, while recalling the general direction of my next class, which I had found on the map earlier. As I stood up, one of the boys approached me. He smiled confidently at me. "It is bella." "That means you are beautiful," he explained. "I'm Brent, and you can borrow my notes, Lexi. I can help you study, too, if you want." With his dark good looks, he was like a baby-faced version of Cade. He already had the self-assurance of a guy who was used to female attention, but his demeanor wasn't arrogant. If I was a freshman girl without a boyfriend, he would have definitely caught my attention. I'm a junior," I admitted, as a way of hinting that he was too young for me. "I've got a tutor to help me catch up with the rest of the class, but thanks for offering to help." I walked past him, but he fell into step beside me in the hallway. "What do you have next?" he queried. "I'll walk you there." "Don't you have to get to your own class?" I questioned. "I'll make it," he assured me. "Even if I'm a little late, it's okay. So, tell me what class you have next." "English 3, I replied, not wanting to waste any more time arguing with him. "It's in room—" "I know where it is," he interjected, and turned to walk in the opposite direction of the one that we had been facing. "I'm going there too." "You are?" I asked in surprise as I automatically fell into step beside him. "All the English classes are in the same section," he explained. "I have English now too, so it works out perfectly." "Yeah," I agreed, although this wasn't helping him take the hint that we weren't a match. "There's this awesome burger place nearby," he said. "I bet you've never had a burger better in your life. I can take you there after school." "Thanks for inviting me, but I have a boyfriend," I told him. "That's why we can go as friends," he stated smoothly, without missing a beat. "Unless you don't want to be seen with a freshman," he added. "No, it's not that," I assured him, not wanting him to think that I was so shallow. "What is it then?" he asked. "Does your boyfriend not let you have friends? Because that's one of the signs of an abusive—" "Kate is not abusive," I interrupted him hastily. "Of course I can have friends." "Good," he said. "Then we can be friends." Kate could take lessons from this kid. He had manipulated me into either becoming his friend or being the mean girl who had rejected his friendship. So, of course, I found myself unable to make any more protest against his tactics. He ended up seeing my schedule when I pulled it out after he asked me what my last class of the day was. Brent stood too close so that he could see it too. "Okay, I'll see you then," he told me. "Or," he added more casually, "you could sit at my table during lunch if you have no one to sit with." "I actually do," I replied. "I've got a friend that goes to this school." "Oh," he responded in surprise. "That's good. Who is it, if you don't mind me asking? I know a lot of people here because my brother goes to school here too." "Her name is Morgan Stewart," I answered him. "She's a sophomore," I added to show him that I didn't exclude people from other grades. "I know her," he said. "My brother is completely in love with her." He gestured toward a classroom. "This is you. I'm down the hall." The warning bell rang then. "I'll see you later, Lexi," he said, parting from me with a smile before I could ask him about his brother. I was intrigued with who this guy was because Morgan hadn't mentioned him. Maybe she didn't know how he felt about her. It occupied my thoughts until a girl in my English class spoke to me. "Hi, I'm Julia," she introduced herself to me. I looked at the pretty Asian girl sitting at the desk beside me. "Hi, Julia," I replied, remembering to repeat her name to help me remember it. "I'm Lexi." "It's nice to meet you, Lexi," she said, perhaps using the same memory trick. "You're welcome to sit with me at lunch." Thanks so much, I told her sincerely. But I promised my friend Morgan that I'd sit with her. I could see if... That's okay, she cut in. I just didn't want you to sit by yourself. I didn't know that you already knew someone. Yeah, I said. She's my neighbor. Morgan Rhodes? She questioned. Because she sits at my table, so... No, I interrupted her. Morgan Stewart. Taylor's sister? She queried in surprise. She is a sophomore. I would have expected you to be sitting with Taylor. The bell to begin class rang then, sparing me from having to explain that Taylor didn't like me. At least I wasn't behind in English, and everyone that I had met here had been nice to me so far. Being the new student at this school wasn't as bad as I had expected. My English teacher didn't even mention me to the class, so not being singled out helped me relax. This school wasn't so different from my other schools after all. Then I saw the cafeteria, with its expansive view of the countryside seen through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I stood staring at it until Morgan's voice drew my attention to her. Let's get our food, she urged. I had seen her in the hallway earlier, before my Algebra 2 class, and she had hugged me in excitement. I suspected that had more to do with her elation over kissing Logan than happiness about seeing me. We went to wait in line, and I got another surprise when I saw that they had a salad bar. Morgan talked happily about getting the chicken parmesan. She informed me that they also had eggplant parmesan if I preferred that. I found out that they also had barbecue pulled pork sandwiches and steamed corn today. There was also a deli station for those who wanted sandwiches. It was a far cry from the pizza and tater tots that were the highlights in most school cafeterias. The floor wasn't the shiny linoleum that was used in all the schools I'd attended. It was real tile with a pattern that gave it a textured look. The chairs we sat on were wooden rather than the plastic ones that were the norm in school cafeterias. Except for all the students, this place looked nothing like any cafeteria I had ever seen. The girl from my English class waved to me as I walked past her, and I waved back. Morgan was excited about it. Julia Ozawa likes you, she exclaimed excitedly. You're in. In what? I asked. In with the queen bee, she explained. Julia is the most popular junior. Taylor is so jealous of her, she added gleefully. Oh, I responded in surprise. She seems really nice. Yeah, she is, Morgan agreed. And she's really talented, too. She's an actual musical prodigy. We had arrived at the table, and she set her tray down and motioned for me to take the seat beside her. The seat on the other side of her was occupied by a girl who had filled her plate from the salad bar. Morgan introduced me to her, and I learned that her name was Lauren. I was secretly pleased that I would be able to remember her name by thinking of our personal chef. This Lauren was an African-American girl who looked like she had just come from a fashion shoot. Was everyone at this school good-looking, I wondered? Yet another attractive person joined us at our table. Hello, he greeted me. You're in my seat, but that's okay since you're the right gender. If you were a guy, you'd have to move. No, she wouldn't, Morgan retorted. You don't own that seat. She glanced at me. Just ignore him. Aren't you going to introduce us? He asked as he sat down his tray beside me. I'm Blaine, he told me himself. You're Blaine? I exclaimed in complete surprise. He broke into one of the most appealing smiles I'd ever seen. You've heard of me. Has Morgan been talking about me? Shut up, she commanded, and I wasn't sure if she was talking to him or me. Her attitude made it clear that he was the same Blaine she had told me about, but he was nothing like I had imagined him. I just hadn't expected him to be so cute. I knew that he would be good-looking, but I expected someone hot who went around seducing girls with his sex appeal and seductive attitude. I hadn't anticipated a guy with such an infectious smile, and whose appearance would be described as cute much more than sexy. I found myself smiling at him. Hi, I'm Lexi. Hi, Lexi, he replied as he sat down next to me. If you're Morgan's friend, then you're my friend too. Morgan is the love of my life. Did she tell you that? I was exceedingly delighted to be his friend, and I wasn't the only one. 2 other girls joined us, both of them exclaiming his name happily in greeting. Their names were Kayla and Audrey, and they were both blonde like Morgan. Blaine had dark brown hair and brown eyes, and I thought that he and Morgan would make the cutest couple ever. Although he was friendly with the rest of us, it was obvious that he was paying special attention to Morgan. What do you do this weekend? He asked her. You said it was good. Usually you just say it was okay. She blushed, and her gaze dropped down to her plate. Blaine's happy expression disappeared as he watched her. His own gaze dropped down, and I could see him struggling with some emotion. When he lifted his eyes, he looked at her with intensity. "Are you happy with him?" he asked. Morgan's startled gaze flew toward him. What do you mean?" "I know you only feel that way about one person. So I just want to know, now that things have changed, are you happy?" Morgan hedged uncomfortably as her gaze shifted away from his. Then she seemed to gather her resolve, and she looked directly at him again. "I'm happy." His shoulders slumped, but he responded in a caring tone. "That's all that matters." "What are you two talking about?" Audrey asked in bewilderment. "What's changed, and who's making her happy?" She looked from Blaine to Morgan. "Do you have a boyfriend?" she questioned. "Oh my God, who is it?" Blaine pushed back his chair and stood up. "I'll see you guys later." "Where are you going?" Kayla protested. "You haven't even eaten your lunch yet." "I'm not hungry," he said, and dumped his food in the trash as he walked away. "That boy is so in love with you," Lauren remarked. I glanced at her and saw her looking thoughtfully in the direction he had gone. Something clicked in my mind at her words. "Wait, is that Brent's brother?" "Yes," Kayla confirmed. "But how do you know Brent? He's a freshman." "He's in my Spanish class," I explained. "We didn't have to take a language at my other school, so I'm in the beginner class." "Brent is going to be just as hot as Blaine," Audrey declared. "You think Blaine is hot?" I questioned. "I think he's cute." "That's how he gets you," Lauren said. "He's so cute that you don't have your guard up against him. Before you know it, you're making out with him." "You've made out with him?" I asked before realizing that I was prying into her personal life when I'd only just met her. "Not me," she replied enigmatically. "I wish he'd make out with me," Andre sighed. "Me too," Kayla said. My attention was on Morgan, though. Lauren's gaze had slid toward her after saying "not me," and Morgan had stiffened in her seat. I got the feeling that Lauren knew something that Audrey and Kayla didn't, and I was intrigued by the undercurrent of tension Morgan was projecting. Was she upset about the girl Blaine had made out with? She had made it sound like she had no interest in him, but she hadn't told me that he apparently sat beside her at lunch every day. What else hadn't she mentioned to me? "I don't know why you keep turning him down," Audrey said to Morgan. "This boyfriend you've got has to be amazing if you picked him over Blaine." I was surprised that they didn't know about her crush on Logan. Blaine certainly seemed to, which also made me wonder why she would tell him when she hadn't told her other friends. Yet he did seem to care for her. What he said about her happiness being the only thing that mattered was so sweet, and it became more touching to me the longer I thought about it. I didn't understand why she had described him as a player when he seemed to be a great guy. Yet Logan had also called him a womanizer. His behavior didn't match that image for me, but I'd only just met him. I didn't know him well enough to judge what kind of person he was. He had made a good first impression on me, but that wasn't enough to go on. I knew that I should listen to the people who had known him longer, but it was difficult not to trust my own perception of him. I reminded myself that my perception had been wrong before. I had thought that Cade was just a selfish jerk, but I had discovered his hidden sweet side. Maybe Blaine was the opposite, and he only appeared to be nice on the surface. Yet I also wondered if Morgan had misjudged him the same way I had misjudged Cade. It was something that I wanted to discuss with her when we were alone. At the moment, she was preoccupied with deflecting Audrey's curiosity about her mysterious boyfriend. "I don't have a boyfriend," she insisted, and she wasn't lying. Logan hadn't asked her to become his girlfriend, but we were both hoping that he would. She had told Blaine that she was happy, but that wouldn't be completely true until Logan asked her out. I was sure that he would now that he had kissed her. "So, where are you from, Lexi?" she asked me in a way that I suspected was an attempt to shift the focus away from Morgan's love life, which reinforced my perception of her as a good friend to Morgan. "She transferred from a public school," Morgan explained. "How do you know each other?" Morgan inquired, having been successfully distracted from her quest to uncover Morgan's secrets. "She is my new neighbor," Morgan answered. "Oh? Lauren responded with a speculative look at me. What do your parents do? My mom was a waitress, I replied, but she's going to college now to become a teacher. My dad died a long time ago. Lauren seemed confused by my answer, and she glanced at Morgan for help. Her mom married Robert Stover, Morgan told her. Ah, Lauren said like she was having an epiphany. Kayla spoke up in response to this information. I heard that his son is hot. He's your stepbrother now, Lexi, right? Yeah, I confirmed, although I no longer thought of him that way. He was simply Cade to me. Can you set me up with him? She asked. He's got a girlfriend, I said, hoping that she would drop the subject. Oh, well, let me know if they break up, she requested. We can still look at him in the meantime, Audrey suggested. Maybe Lexi will invite us over. Yeah, I agreed since she had put me on the spot like that. Maybe this weekend you guys could... That would be perfect, Audrey said before I could finish my sentence. Just as long as he's not out on a date when we come over. So it should probably be during the day. Find out when he's going to be home, Lexi. Okay, I replied, a little taken aback by her presumptive attitude. You should come too, I added, speaking to Lauren. I didn't want to leave her out if I was inviting the other girls. I wouldn't miss it, she replied dryly. There's a new guy to drool over. Like you don't look at hot guys, Audrey retorted. Please, like you're too mature for that. There's nothing wrong with looking, but you could be a little more subtle about it, Lauren advised. Why? Audrey asked. Why waste time instead of letting him know right away that you're interested? That way he'll know he can approach you if he's interested in you. True, Lauren agreed, but I like that mystery when you first meet someone. It's fun to wonder if he likes you. No, it's not, Audrey disagreed. Waiting is torture. The fun part is when you know he likes you. I sided with Audrey on this one. Knowing that my feelings were reciprocated was better than wondering how the guy I liked felt about me. I was sure that Morgan didn't find it fun to wonder if Logan liked her as much as she liked him. Lauren's attitude was enviable, but I couldn't enjoy uncertainty myself. I wanted to feel secure in my romantic relationship. Thinking about this made me feel even more empathy for Morgan. It was easy for me to assure her that Logan liked her, but she needed to hear it from him. Yet I also found myself feeling sympathy for Blaine, because he also seemed to really like Morgan. His own brother had even told me that he was in love with her, and his reaction to her saying that she was happy with someone else appeared to confirm that. Remembering what his brother had said also reminded me that I was going out for a burger with him after school. Somehow I had been manipulated into going out with a freshman and inviting other girls home to ogle my boyfriend. My worries about my first day in the school hadn't included situations like these, but new people always brought unforeseen circumstances into your life. My relationship with Kate had already spun a tangled web, and I was becoming more entangled in it as I got stuck in strains of deceit and deception we had created. We had to hide the truth from most people, but Morgan was hiding the truth from herself. She confessed it to me on the phone that night when Logan still hadn't called her. I kissed Blaine. I stopped speaking in the middle of my rant to call Logan and get on his case about his behavior toward her. What? I exclaimed in shock. Last year, she explained. It happened at a party. We were in a room by ourselves, so I thought that nobody saw it. But maybe Logan somehow found out about it, and maybe he's mad at me about lying to him about being my first kiss. I really wanted him to be, she continued as I listened in shocked silence. I just felt like it was so hopeless when he started dating Julia. They were the perfect couple, both of them the best of the best. Everyone said that they belonged together, and I knew they were right. Julia's so talented, and there's nothing special about me. That's not true, I protested. But Blaine made me feel special, she interrupted me. He started bringing me those roses the very next day after he met me, and he wanted to know everything about me. I didn't want him to keep waiting for me, so I told him that I was in love with someone else, and that he should go out with other girls. He did, but he never stopped bringing me the roses and talking to me. And sitting with you at lunch, I added. Yeah, she said, and he was at that party when I decided to get drunk and forget about Logan. But Blaine wouldn't let me have another drink after my second one. He took the cup out of my hand and he took me into the laundry room to talk. But I just wanted to... She sighed heavily. I knew that he liked me, and I felt like it would never happen with Logan, so I kissed him. And it was... She trailed off. I forgot about Logan, she admitted. I told myself that it was the alcohol making me act like that. It had to be, right? She asked me desperately. Or maybe you like him, I suggested. He is very cute, and... Not you too, she exclaimed, interrupting my reasoning. Everyone thinks I'm crazy not to go out with him, but why'd you tell me Logan was your first kiss? I cut in, wondering why she had lied to me about it. Because I wanted him to be, she answered. The one with Blaine doesn't really count because I was kind of drunk. That's why it got so out of control. I wouldn't have acted that way if... I immediately interrupted her again. How out of control did it get? She responded after a pause, during which I remembered her reaction when Lauren mentioned a girl making out with Blaine. It went a little further than kissing, she said without elaborating. Blaine stopped. He, stopped it, and got Lauren to drive me home. I said all this stuff about him, but it was the alcohol. I was mortified the next day, but it didn't seem like he ever told anyone about it. I thought about Lucas bragging to his friends about taking my virginity. Blaine seems like a nice guy, I said. He is, she conceded, for a guy who dates so many girls. Or at least he used to. He doesn't anymore? I questioned, already guessing when he stopped. Not since we kissed, she confirmed. He said that it proved I liked him, even though I told him it was a mistake. Now I'm worried that Logan feels that way about kissing me. He would have called me by now if he liked me, wouldn't he? I was still distracted by her revelations about Blaine. The plan you had to sleep with another guy. That was going to be Blaine? He's the most experienced guy I know, she replied defensively. That was the only reason. No, it wasn't, I contradicted her. You're attracted to him. Probably more attracted to him than you are to Logan. What? She exclaimed in outrage. That's not true. I love Logan. But you want Blaine, I stated. Your kiss with Logan didn't get out of control. That only happened with Blaine because of the alcohol, she insisted. I changed tactics. What happened with Blaine the day after you kissed him? Did you talk to him that day? Yes, she answered. He showed up at my house with a bouquet of roses, assuming that we were a couple, but I told him it was a mistake. He brought you a bouquet of roses after you kissed. And what has Logan done? I felt bad to put it so bluntly, but I let the silence stretch. Nothing, Morgan finally said, and I could hear the sadness in her voice as she began to cry. You said that he liked me, but... I'll find out, I promised her, unable to stand how despondent she was. I'll talk to him and find out what's going on with him. So now I was entangled in Morgan's love life too, but I didn't know how caught up in this web I really was.